Hi, everyone. This is Trish Kendall, your host for the Choose and Become interview series. So today I have with me, I'm going to say hi really quick before I set context. I have Rick Chavez. Rick, will you say hi?
Hello, everybody.
All right. So Rick's going to get in. We're going to dive in a minute. But two things. One, I'm thrilled to have Rick. So Rick and I knew each other, but really connected strongly through the TEDx experience. So I was honored to be a part of the experience with Rick at TEDx Walden Pond. And I said, I got to bring some of Rick to the masses. But he and I have had an opportunity before then to really connect specifically about both of our origin stories. And so I'm excited to share some of that with the audience today. But I'm going to take a step back before we move forward, Rick, for those people who are new to the show. I made 5 critical choices on my journey from the pit of despair to the peak of success, enduring success, what I consider my enduring success. And those 5 critical choices, you're all going to hear them in a minute, because the whole purpose of this interview series is for me to interview people I admire and people who inspire me, to get their perspective and experience and voice as it relates to these 5 choices in their lives. So with that being said, Rick, will you just I didn't even say anything about you, because I want you to introduce yourself and then I'll pepper in anything that I want. Will you share a little bit about Rick?
Well, first, I'm thrilled to be talking to you again, Trish. It was I'm honored to be here and just incredibly moved by your story, as you know. So I have deep regard for you, and I'm glad to be here. It's funny because I think people always are sure that their story makes total sense when, from outside in it looks odd. So of course I think my story makes complete sense, but I have probably a little bit of an unconventional story. I grew up in a beautiful family, but in a smaller place in the world, Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm first generation, college educated. I'm a Latino, Hispanic American. A lot of what I think I was able to do, I credit to my mother and my parents. Frankly, I just played along, but I learned to be. I'm a musician. I felt that for a very long time. I love technology. I kind of got introduced to that very young. I have this dubious distinction of knowing the internet from like the early 80s or late 70s, if you can imagine that. So when people say the early internet and they talk about the late 90s, I have a slightly different perspective. But I have been a consultant and a startup person, an entrepreneur, and then a consultant. And what I found was consulting and advisory work and strategy work with companies became a fabulous place to spot ideas. And then I jump out and do a startup to take advantage of, commercializing the idea. That was complete luck, complete happenstance. But it was a pattern that worked for me. So like I said, I think my path makes sense, yeah. but it has led me to do some really interesting things over time. So from the early startup phase and then the advisory things I've done with many companies, I shifted my focus in the aughts and in the last 15 years to really focus on the challenge of large companies innovating at scale, trying to be something different, move to some new space, and unlearn, and loosen up the corporate memory, which wants to hold on to a different way of work and mindset and ways of succeeding, to go to some new place that actually feels a little scary and unknown. And so I've learned that through that journey, as you know, a lot of what is happening is it's a game in your head, and it's a challenge of creating confidence and conviction to move in a new direction, which I never started off thinking that's where I'd ultimately end up. But a lot of the work I do is really in the space of helping people see a different future and then act their way toward it.
Oh,